years ago, I remember seeing adverts for this reflective spray paint in the back of a magazine. It was a bit clandestine. The idea was you would spray your number plate with this transparent paint, then when you got flashed by a speed camera, little particles in it would reflect all of the light back and you wouldn't be able to read the number plate. Now that's obviously illegal and doesn't really work, but it turns out you can just buy cans of this stuff to paint bollards or rocks in your driveway or whatever, so you don't hit them when you're driving at night. And I got to thinking, what if I use that paint on a bike? Well, let's figure it out. My name, as always, is Luke, and welcome back to Trace Velo. So this is the paint that I initially bought. It was quite difficult to find and quite expensive as well. So each of these small cans cost me 15 quid and I bought 2 of them. Now, it should apparently go on completely transparent and then little particles in it should reflect back any light shone onto the surface. I've also no idea how durable this stuff is gonna be. So I've also bought myself a can of clear coat in case I need to put a protective layer on top to prevent scuffs or scrapes. Now, this is the frame that I'll be spraying up. For those interested, it's my old Trifox X16 disc brake frame, and it's fully carbon, matte black, all that good stuff. But before we get into that, let's have a quick test of this spray paint. Okay, so I've done a little bit of testing of that reflective spray paint on this box here. So there's nothing there, but hopefully you can see a little bit of discoloration there. So let me show you what this looks like in the dark. Right, here's what it looks like normally, but let me turn the flash on. Okay, so here it is with the flash on, and you can clearly see it's nice and reflective. You can even see a bit of overspray there catching the light, and it catches it from all different angles. It's nice and bright. This side obviously has nothing on. This side you can really tell actually. On this one, I gave it a coat of the spray paint and then sprayed some clear coat over the top, and it's really affected the reflective properties of it actually. So I'm not going to bother with clear coat on the frame. It's relatively durable as is. You can scratch it off with your fingernail, but it doesn't exactly rub off. So yeah, I'm not going to bother with the clear coat over the frame because it does really affect it. It makes it look quite patchy actually. So I'd call that test a success. Let's get it on the frame. Now the frame still has my old group set and everything attached to it, so I'm just stripping that off here. Plus I've got some new disc brake setups to try out. I've got some really cool disc brake calipers to show you, but a bit more on that later on. Okay, right, so here's the frame completely disassembled. It's got nothing left on it, and there are a few bits down there, so some headset bearings and stuff. And basically, I'm gonna spray up the frame, the seat post, and the fork. I'm not gonna bother with the handlebars because they're gonna be mostly covered with bar tape anyway. So next up, I'm actually gonna key the surface of the paint here, so rough it up a little bit with some sandpaper to give the spray paint something to adhere to. And then once that's done, I'll clean it all down with some isopropyl alcohol to make sure there's no oil or anything, just to give the spray paint the best chance of adhering. So yeah, let's crack on.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I've I've just started sanding this down literally 2 minutes ago. I think I'm going to do this outside because I've got the garage door cracked open, but you can see that is some really fine bits of paint there, and I don't really want a chance sucking this into my lungs, so I'm going to go and do this outside. I think that's probably best. Okay, so yeah, sanding down and keying the frame is done. And I'm slightly concerned I've completely ruined a nice frame because it does look super rough now. But it is keyed nicely and it's all washed down with isopropyl alcohol. I mean, if it does look terrible and this doesn't work, I do have a can of matte black spray paint in there, so I can just respray it. But still, it's all ready to go, so I guess there's nothing else for it. Let's get this reflective spray paint on.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Right, if you're looking for some decent cycle clothing that doesn't break the bank, my sponsor Siroko have, they've got you covered. So they're a cool little Spanish company that makes some wicked gear, and I've been wearing their stuff on every single ride for 3 years at this point. I mean, this M2 jersey is about 3 years old, actually. It must have been in and out of the wash about 100 times by now, and it still looks great. Now, they don't actually make this design anymore, but you can get this very similar looking one for 33 quid right now. They also do some lightweight racing style jerseys, like this white one, or if you wanted something a little warmer, their M4 thermal jerseys are fantastic. The fabric is really great quality, nice and stretchy with super deep pockets at the back. It's basically perfect for those slightly colder days on the bike. As for bib shorts, you can pick up their Aspen ones for 42 quid. They've got some great padding in there, or if you wanted some bib tights, their basic Black Sea version is fantastic as well. Anyway, I love Siroko. They're consistently such a good company to work with, and they make some really great cycle clothing as well. So if you want to get 10% off site-wide, then use my link in the video description, and it helps me out a little bit as well, which is cool. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get back to it. Okay, right. I'm I'm just out in the back of my garden here, and there's no wind today, so this should work. So yeah, let's get this thing sprayed up. Moment of truth. Okay, so yeah, here it is after both of these cans. It's still a little bit patchy. I've got another can in the post. You can kind of see it's got that reflective sheen on it, but it's certainly not an even coat. It was really difficult because basically it kept getting clogged because of these tiny little particles in there, and then it would spray a bunch on one area. It was really difficult to get a consistent coat on it, but yeah, it's certainly got those reflective properties. But I'm going to give it one more coat. That should be coming in a few days, and then I'll do the big reveal. But it's promising, but certainly doesn't look particularly tidy up close. Now, I didn't want to have to buy the same paint again. The cans were actually tiny, only 130 milliliters, and quite expensive, like I said before, at 15 quid each. So after a bit of searching around, I found this stuff on Amazon. It's essentially identical, but it's 500 milliliters for 18 quid. So much better value. And I'll put a link down below in the description to this in case you're interested. But with this in hand, I got another coat on the bike. Okay, so I gave the frame another coat, and it's pretty even actually. So I'm happy with it. Slight patchiness in some places, but it's the best that I can get it. And I've also sprayed up the seat post here as well, and I tried to do the front forks, and I thought I'd lay it on quite thick to see if that would help, but it's completely ruined it. So it's dry. It's been drying for about 5 days, but you can see it's got orange peel there, and it just doesn't reflect the light when it's put on thickly. So yeah, clearly the key is some thin, light coats with this stuff. So I'm gonna have to strip all this off. I've got some isopropyl alcohol and some acetone in there, maybe a bit of sandpaper as well. But let's get this off and give it another go.
So I tried using alcohol and acetone, and they worked okay, but in the end it was quicker to use a knife and scrape off the paint, which you can see here. I initially thought the paint would be quite delicate and might just rub off, but doing this actually gave me quite a lot of confidence that this stuff is pretty durable. Anyway, after doing that, here it is with the paint scraped off. So let's give this fork another coat.
Okay, so I've given it one thin coat, and it looks so much better. Hopefully you can see it's reflecting really nicely there. So I'll let that dry, give it one, maybe two more thin coats, and the job is a good one. So yeah, really chuffed with that, much better. Right then, after admittedly quite a lot of work, let me show you the final result.
Here it is with the lights on. Definitely not black anymore, more like a stony grey colour and slightly patchy, but it doesn't look too bad, if you ask me. But here it is with the lights off. It is incredibly reflective. To be honest, it's come out far better than I sort of initially thought it would. The smallest hint of light and the whole frame just lights up. I wasn't sure that the paint would work as well on the neon yellow part of the fork either, but you can see here, it lights up just as well as the rest of the frame. It's a very similar effect to those sort of super reflective jackets that you can buy. Any light that hits it just gets reflected straight back. I mean, you can really see it in some of these pictures. It's pretty impossible to miss.
So yeah, I am really happy with it. Now the clocks have gone back, the days are a lot shorter, so I'm cycling quite a lot in the dark actually, and it's going to be very difficult to miss me on this frame. Now, even without a clear coat over the top, like I said earlier, I'm surprised at how durable this paint seems to be. So I think as long as I'm relatively careful with it, it should last. Although I'll need to get it out on the road and start cleaning it and stuff. That'll be the real test. So I guess we'll see in a few weeks just how durable it is. But I know what some of you are thinking. So let's quickly build this frame into a bike and see it in action.
Right, so building up this bike was pretty straightforward. It's kind of a mishmash of random parts that I had lying around. I ended up using some older shifters that I had in the cupboard, these ultra budget 11-speed micro new ones that I've reviewed in a previous video, and paired them up with some decent 105 R7000 derailleurs. Plus, I've got that juicy, but arguably completely pointless, oversized pulley gauge on there. Anyway, here's the final result. I think it looks pretty cool, to be honest. Weighs in at 7.6 kilograms, and the grey colour is, pretty uniform. With the lights off, it looks pretty awesome too, and you can really see just how reflective that paint is. Now, to give everything a sort of decent shakedown, I took it out for a spin yesterday. It was a beautiful sunny day, lovely sunshine, but towards the end, the rain really came in. I got absolutely drenched, and there was actually a bit of a flash flood on one of the roads that I had to go through. But it was a good opportunity to test out the paint. You can see the rain just beating up on the surface here, and overall, it fared pretty well. Now, this is how it looked when I got back to the garage. You can tell where the paint is sort of saturated with water and mud, it does lose a bit of reflectivity. But once it dried off, I gave the frame a little brush to get rid of the loose dirt, and it was pretty much good as new.
So yeah, now this is all sort of complete. I'd call this project a success. Now, the reflective paint, it's not exactly transparent, but I actually quite like the grey sort of stonewash colour. I think it looks quite nice actually. Now, if you're thinking of doing this yourself, multiple light coats of the paint is what you need. And although the finish is relatively durable, like I said, you can see here on one of the seat stay tubes where I had my camera quite tightly sort of clamped on for some of those ride-along shots, a bit of the paint has peeled away. Another thing to sort of bear in mind, it's only super reflective when the light source is kind of in line with your eye or the camera. So it's not like reflective at all angles. So the light source is next to the camera here, but as I move it down, you can see the reflectivity sort of drops off. But I expected this. It's not like a super glow in the dark paint or anything. You do need the light sort of in line to get the full effect. But ultimately, was it worth the effort? Well, yeah, maybe not. So it does look good, at least I think so, but doing the whole frame was, it took a while. So if I was going to recommend this to you, I'd probably say do a couple of choice sort of bands around the frame, or maybe just some strips of the paint, because that will be so much easier and you'd get pretty much the same effect. So as mentioned at the beginning, I've used some pretty interesting brake calipers on this build. Now the frame is disc brake, the group set that I've used is mechanical, and these are the calipers. TRP High Road mechanical calipers. Now they look pretty chunky, and the interesting thing about these and sort of what sets them apart is the fact they have a proper mineral oil reservoir on top of the caliper, and after taking them down some pretty savage descents. Yeah, I'm very impressed. I've used a lot of different mechanical disc brake setups over the years. This is one of the best ones I've ever tried, actually. So yeah, I'll get some more miles on them. Review for these coming soon, so get subscribed for that. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. So subscribe, hit the like button, and I will see you later on. Ciao, ciao. Hua. See you later. Also, some of you may have noticed I haven't uploaded a long form video like this for a couple of weeks. One, it's good to be back, but number two, this is the reason. So this is my brand new daughter. She's about 2.5 weeks old, aren't you? She's very snuffly right now. Yeah, so I've been doing an ungodly number of nappy changes over the last couple of weeks. I thought they went through like 3 or 4 a day. Yeah, you get through about 10 to 12, don't you? As a sort of conservative estimate. So that's what I've been doing with my time. Say hello to the lovely people. Say hello. Yeah, she's super adorable. Anyway, maybe she's not ready for prime time just yet. Right, well, that's it. Mum is doing super well, by the way, for those wondering. She's an absolute superwoman. Yeah, I'm absolutely chuffed. Right, anyway, see you next time. I think you better change that nappy. Right, see you later. Ciao.